They asked me, the station, they picked up before I start trying to analyze some of this today's news, that there were a couple here that the writing staff, they didn't catch the errors that they wrote, and they just wanted me to reread. Once they made the corrections right quick. One, circles assume that spirals are out of control. A man who will look at himself in the mirror has too many mirrors. Only the unexamined, ordinary life is, quote, worth living, at least as much as the examined one. I guess it was philosophy desk. Okay. It was another version, an expanded version. Only the unexamined ordinary life is worth abandoning. Oh, all right. Examine it once if you like, and then get the hell out. I don't know. They keep letting, I don't know. Nobody asked my editorial opinion. They keep letting these interns from, they're doing philosophy with the city university, come over here and try and do rewrites. And all right, here's the last one. One man says, well, here's just a straight news item. I hope they quoted him correctly this time. One man says he doesn't believe in artificial intelligence. He says he doesn't know why, but he just doesn't. And now on to the analyzation of what we laughingly call sometimes, the news. Let's see. How come they always pick out the weird ones and want them analyzed? How come it's never this straightforward thing like, you know, the weather update, like tomorrow will be rainy and over cloudy? I can analyze that. Do it the easy way again. I'll read them all, see, install for time, and try to figure out what to say about one of them. Man is the only creature who can be imprisoned using nothing more than words, an independent thinker. Sort of needs his own private language, and since there's not one, and it's not even possible, he has to make one up. One of life's built-in safety features locally. As long as you're smiling and laughing at reality, you can't point it out to anyone else. Thus is the term serious thinker an NAACP, not NAACP, NCAA, champ, oxymoron. I don't know which one of those makes any sense. Talking about how you feel helps you feel less. And there was another item which I don't think they pulled out that pointed out that a man who tells you how he feels limits how he feels. And you do not simply have to tell anyone overtly. All you got to do is tell yourself. I'm just trying to start off the easy way. If you tell somebody else how you feel, you have limited how you feel. At the ordinary level, though, that is part of the purpose of the great jump from the limbic into the nervous system, the spinal cord, into the area that we laughingly like to refer to as the mush, the brain, the cortex. Part of being civilized. Was there any more connected? All right, the intellectual life of man was the definition, the conversation that never ends. Part of civilization, part of the idea of a collective intelligence, part of getting along in life can be wrapped up in the sense that if you tell how you feel, you have limited how you feel. There are many other ways to expand, to stretch out that kind of definition that would fit whatever circumstances, if you were ordinary, that you might try to find that would be exceptional to that. But talking about how you feel is one of the primary, necessary foundations of civilization. And it is also an area, as always, that is quite easy for someone to come back along and criticize by simply saying, you know, you talk too much, you complain too much. That half of what people say is just a waste of time. And it's not. It's a waste of time if you start off and we're trying to operate on the basis that talk was something other than it is. That is, even to expand, the expansion is part of what, there was another news item tonight that they also didn't pull out. that pointed out that that it's quite common for people to try and make more out of thinking, which is just simply the background to speaking anyway. But to try and make more out of thinking, to make it sound like more than it is one of the most agreeable activities, if not downright hobbies, life hobbies, of those who can't do it to the fullest to start with. So rather than having to deal with the fact that the intellect, as in any healthy situation, that the intellect of an individual and of humanity is not completed, is not intended to be completed, well, at least not this month. I hope. Well, I had tickets to a game back in July. I wouldn't have paid the money if I thought the whole thing was going to explode on us. If you tell how you feel, let's start from another direction just shortly. Obviously, everyone knows this. The common conventional wisdom of psychology today is more or less that there is great general benefit in telling how you feel. That conversely, it will make you even feel worse if you're feeling bad and not tell someone. That if you try to bottle it up and you don't tell someone that you're mad at them, that it can make you sick. There is a governing factor in telling how you feel. That there is, as always, validity in conventional wisdom, in the collective intelligence of humanity of saying, well, you're better off talking about how you feel. But it's not simply, as they put it, it's not limited to, as far as humanity has taken it, that it is a safety valve, if nothing else. That it is truly conducive to good mental health to talk about it as opposed to trying to hold it in. That if it's important enough that you want to talk about it, by God, you should talk about it. But now past the point of being ordinary, because if you're just ordinary, you're not going anywhere anyway. You're not going to get well because you're not sick. But if you get past that point, then it kicks in the fact that if you talk about how you feel, you have limited how you feel. But can you see that at the ordinary level, if you tell how you feel, if you take what the news item said, that if you say how you feel, you limit how you feel. Now, rather than take that as being prima facie a negative comment on talking about one's emotions, do you see that even the news comment itself fits into conventional psychological wisdom? That, well, if you talk about how you feel, at least you put some constraints on detrimental feelings past a certain point. That it is indeed a kind of safety valve. If you talk about how you feel, it sort of balances out any aggressive, negative, self-defeating feelings that could cause you harm. Not just the other person necessarily to start with. Not that it just hurts someone else's feelings to say, you know what, I don't know why, but I've got to where, I don't like you. I don't like you like I used to. Whatever it is, rather than worrying about sparing their feelings, the initial aspect of that kind of psychological wisdom is that it spares your feelings, that will spare you from making yourself sick. So the comment, the news item, that talking about your feelings will limit them, you could take in the beginning at the quite simple level that, well, that would be good because you want to limit how bad your own feelings can make you feel. Now past the point of being ordinary, then you ask yourself, well, how bad can you feel? What the hell do you want? People worry about, well, listen, I'm delicate. Remember, we're no longer talking about ordinary people. You're supposed to have left the room if you're ordinary by now. Of course, you're ordinary. The way you leave the room, you get up and you walk and you go out the door. Well, sometimes ordinary people need the obvious pointed out. If you talk about how you feel, now back, remember we have passed the point of talking about the ordinary and people who could be psychologically ill. If you talk about how you feel, you've limited how you feel. Because if you talk about how you feel, then your mind has bridged that gap, as it always does, between the limbic system and the cortex, and it's not dealing purely with either thinking or purely with thought, which it can anyway, but it's not even attempting to. And by it describing how it feels, you're stuck with it. But now forget the idea, well, sometimes I'd like to be stuck with it. No, not if you want to think. Because there's nothing to be stuck with. I mean, there's nothing worthy of being stuck with. Ordinary people will think, well, I would like to be free of certain feelings, or I'd like to be stuck conversely on other feelings. But why, from the ordinary view? A defense mechanism. Well, I would like to be able to get stuck in positive emotion. The people spend great deals of money on courses and books that, boy, I wish I could just be happy, get happy once, and just stay there. Can you help me? Do you have a video? Do you have a book? Because they feel as though that at least would be a defensive mechanism if I could just make myself happy. If I could just smile all the time, if I could just whistle in the dark. Long enough, maybe I could just fake it for 70 years and I'd be better off. That kind of limitation of how one feels, one more time, at the ordinary level would appear to have some positive effect, ordinary people. And there's no doubt about it. It's not an attack on. If you're ordinary, you would be well within your self-deserving deserts if you could find something, a pill, a book, a magic pill that you could take and you could say, all right, I'm going to limit the feelings I have that do not seem to be profitable to me. The pill is talking about them. But to get past that point, you've got to see that there is nothing profitable if you're trying to do anything out of the ordinary rather than just live and die. You're not going to do it with emotions. That again is that kind of, we might say, gray, mixed media, for you artists, area between the limbic system and the cortex, between man's silent feelings down below in the condo and up above, where it can talk. But in the area, if we were talking about it specifically, of pure feeling, if you were just an emotional creature, we're back to playing the game of having it one way and having it the other at the same time, that you could still be dealing as your forefathers and wolves and beavers and elk would, let's say, in just emotion, just physical passion, but while at the same time having an intellect operational enough that you could hear this, then see if you can hear this. There is nothing to play around with emotions, but it's in the area that seems to be, such as back to the at least carcinogenic level psychologically, that people think, well, my emotions are making me sick. There's no, if you're just halfway sane, emotions can't make you sick. They're talking about something else. What kind of emotion is going to make you sick? Now, we don't have time to go into it. All of you have read psychology as much as anybody. What kind of emotions make you sick? Just think about it. Just the common answers, whether you have one or not. You're part of the collective thinking of ordinary civilized humanity. What they're answering, they're not talking about emotions. They're talking about the area between emotions and thinking. Because if you're sane to start with, there's no such thing as an emotion that will make you sick. We're not talking about the anomalies of life. We're talking about that which runs the herd of civilization, ordinary, normal people, which we'll assume all of you were before you started listening to the news. Just ordinary folks. There is no such thing as an emotion to make you sick any more than there is, if that sounds too dogmatic. Can you imagine a lion? I'm sure this will probably get some kind of chuckle, at least since I brought it up. You may now chuckle just out of courtesy. Can you imagine a lion, just an ordinary lion you look at, and the lion just looks as ordinary as you've ever seen on the National Geographic? Can you imagine a lion, and they keep showing it, and it rolls over and it sleeps and it does the thing, and then it kind of looks off, and you begin to get some sort of look on its face that obviously, it just slowly dawns on you, that son of a bitch is thinking. Our son of a bitch is. And not only thinking, but you begin to see some sort of anguished look on that poor lion's face. I don't mean pain. I don't mean pain that's paw hurts. It's looking off like it's having some kind of psychological problem. You understand? It's ridiculous. And if it's not ridiculous, that is, it's impossible. And if it's not impossible, I'll put it this way, worse. It's shameful. You know it's not true. It just simply does not happen. And not because of some magic, not because the gods didn't give lions souls. It happens for one reason. They get up to the end of their nervous system, up to the end of the spinal cord. They got a limbic system, and after that, zit. Oh, they got mush, but the lightning doesn't strike up there. They got the chemicals, but they do not talk and they do not think, and therefore they do not have, now listen, emotional problems. But wait a minute, if they don't think, all they don't have is mental problems. What'd I just say? Yeah, but that's not what psychology, who wants to talk about? Wait a minute. I have certain emotional problems. Doesn't that sound a lot better from one view? Just think, than somebody saying, I have mental problems. What do you mean? You mean like you're stupid? Well, I resent that. I didn't mean I was stupid. Now, I may not be the most intelligent guy in the world right now, or maybe I didn't finish school, but hey, here's the point. When I was a kid, my mother married another guy, my stepfather, used to get drunk and bat me against the wall. Now, I'm not saying I got severe, untreatable brain damage, but, it's not mental problems. I don't know what we're talking about the psychological problems, and see, which means emotional. But what they really mean, without knowing it, is the area where it's trying to jump. And it's been jumping ever since we were driven from Eden. It is jumping, but the jump has never been complete. But emotions are complete. That gets up to the top of your brainstem, and that's it, Charlie. Or Charlene. And Leo. I was trying to throw in the line so that they wouldn't feel like we just used them as a cheap example and then just tossed them away. And like, well, I'll call you sometime. Shouldn't treat the large cats like that. There is literally, if you're sane, one more time, just walking around sane as a middle-class lion, and it gets up to the top of your brainstem before it takes that jump over and you can actually think and talk. Before it hits over there, there is no emotion, there's no electrochemical energy going on in you that is self-defeating. If there was in your stomach, you'd get hungry and you'd try to feed yourself and your stomach would go. Or you'd get sleepy and try to lay down. And your nervous system would make your eyes and everything go. That is not the job of emotion to hurt its host. It is not the job of life to hurt itself. If you get past that point, then the news item begins to make some sense. If you talk about how you feel, you limit it. The shortcut being, since we're running out of analyzation time, if you tell anybody how you feel, you have nailed a piece of emotion to a barn door that got no business being there. It was not true. And all you got to, not because I say so, but you got, if you know anything about you, by you telling somebody, listen, I'm going to tell you the truth, I think the world of you. I mean, you got to be an idiot to put any validity in that. I don't mean that if you know what you're doing, certainly fake it. Be as pretentious as you can be when the times call for it. But to think, hey, this is serious, somebody weld this, somebody write this in blood, you're an idiot. That is, you're ordinary. And of course, if you limit it like saying, I love you. Yes, I swear to uphold my marriage vows and I will love, you'll be my best friend or whatever forever. It's a form of suicide right then. That is, if you took that seriously, that is not true. The emotions cannot do that. But it's not an attack, as you know, on ordinary morality or marriage vows or anything. But it's for the mind trying to nail down that which is elusive, trying to nail down that which is not civilized, and that's part of the purpose, is to limit. And of course, no one can live up to it. No one can, their mind cannot make a promise. You can write a check and your emotions is going to, withdraw, close the account, leave town. Your mind is the one that writes the checks on all promises, all morality, anything having to do with feelings. It's your mind that has to write the check because your feelings can't talk. They can hit somebody, which is a form of talk, but they cannot talk. They cannot make a vow. They cannot say what they feel because they don't feel anything. They're trying to say what amounts to a gap. They're trying to describe a gorge between the limbic system, between the past silent human emotions and now civilized, ordinary thinking. But for you, now back to you, if you're not just an ordinary person, for you to put any validity, did you say any? Is that the same guy that's not only deaf but stupid? Any. If you put any validity, that is you seriously, you personally, not anybody else. Have mercy on everybody else. If everybody else says, you swear you love me? How could I not? Certainly. Do you swear you'll never mistreat me? I'd rather die. Do you swear you'll tell me the truth? But for you to take that seriously, I mean, you got to be a bigger jingo head, than a bungee jumper, using his own umbilical cord. I started to be charitable and go, maybe even I don't understand that one, but I just don't make you feel good. It is back to, are we out? Well, it is back to talking, mechanical, superfluous, automatic talking. Anybody should know by now, because even humanity in general, in the same way that, the stomach knows things it can't talk about, the mind knows things it can't talk about, and it knows this. You talk too much. I'm like, I don't know. But hell, it's part of its safety mechanism. It is part of its health regimen. Got to talk, because that kind of psychological, common, conventional wisdom is true. But, well, you ought to talk about how you feel, because you try to bottle it up, and it can make you sick. At that level, it's true. It's irrelevant, and it's not so, but it's true. And so the mind of anyone who can think can actually hear this, and they know that they cannot absolutely reject it completely to themselves, out of hand, to say, you talk too much, especially about how you feel, which is no way of saying you talk about yourself, because ordinary people, all you got to do is listen to them or listen to you at the ordinary level. And when you talk about you, what do you talk about? Oh, I don't know, out of every 100 minutes of talk about you, what is it? Maybe you talk once, 1 or 2 minutes all told about something, like maybe what you bought. But other than that, I'd say, wouldn't you, the other 98's about how you feel. And if you do that, you have limited how you feel, because you'll continue to walk in that same path over and over and over, and you'll think it's serious. Are we off tape? Well, I just wanted to know one way or the other.
Yes, you're off tape.
Okay. How about, one more time, surely all you people can think it for yourself, some of the examples, but life, I don't know of any occasion that's never been pointed out that crudely, but everyone knows that there is, almost at the archetypical level, in myths, religion, movies, fiction, the great old silent hero. And it still strikes people. They're still doing it today, and there's nothing new, but it still strikes people that a real hero does not run his damn mouth. He says what's necessary.